Music has a way of moving people. It's part of our lives. It's part of everything that we do.
It's a common language, and everybody understands that.
I really do love to play, and I'm serving my country. I'm witnessing history and meeting some wonderful people.
Kind of consider ourselves cheerleaders for all those folks that are taking care of business for the nation.
Each of the services boasts an elite military band, each one steeped in tradition, comprised of world-class musicians plucked from prestigious conservatories. Many hold master's or even doctorate degrees in performance. Today's Recon is a backstage pass to life as a military musician.
In this field, you don't get to pick where you work. You go to the auditions and you hopefully win one. So to be able to win an audition in a band with so much history and so much depth, to be able to go and spend your time in just an array of fantastic cultural activities is pretty fantastic.
All the service bands have a high retention rate, and for good reason. Every musician's endured a grueling audition process to win his or her chair, and the openings are few and far between.
It's extremely competitive. The audition repertory that we put together, a lot of it is orchestral audition music. We do a lot of band repertory. And one thing that we do that would be different than an orchestral audition is sight reading is very much a part of our audition.
Master Sergeant Christopher Rose, a former drummer for 60s pop singer Andy Williams, wanted to return to his roots as a classical musician. He's now a percussionist in the President's own United States Marine Band.
The caliber is second to none. You know, almost everyone here who at least has some sort of advanced degree, a lot of master's degrees, a lot of PhDs, a lot of playing experience. And to be a part of that makes you play better all the time.
The neat thing about being here is we hire professional musicians. We teach them how to be soldiers, we train them up, and then we put them to work. And they do what they do, and they do it all the time. They do it wonderfully.
It's incredibly challenging to spend 5 hours a day in the practice rooms.
Hours of group rehearsals and individual practice are critical for the musicians to keep up their craft.
Yeah, very cool.
All the service bands have a touring concert band along with their own specialized ensembles, like the Navy Band's Sea Chanters Chorus.
See we one another clearly, do we know who we are? Do you know who I am? Do I know who you are? See we one another clearly, do we know who we are? Do you know who I am? Do I know who you are? See we one another clearly, do we know who we are?
I want them, and my commanding officer wants them to be proud in America and proud of their Navy. That's what I want them to see. I want them to go, yes, that's the Navy band. What a great group. I'm in the Navy. They are so wonderful. You know, that's what I want everybody to think.
The response out on tour is tremendous. We always generally sell the house out, and the enthusiasm of the crowd is awesome. It really is.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
The Air Force has its own big band jazz ensemble, the Airmen of Note. The payoff is in the performance.
Some of the older folks in our audience, the young at heart, they'll come up afterwards and you know, they might have a tear in their eye because we really took them back to some very fond times and some very fond memories.
To see the emotion of afterwards, it really is, it is overwhelming. We're being thanked basically for our service, but it's not just our service, it's the service of everybody out in the fleet and all the armed forces. And to have women who are my grandmother's age literally pushing to get to us so they can hug us with tears in their eyes to thank us, it really is amazing.
You know, we do a lot of concerts, especially out on the road, where you get to meet regular folks that are just happy to have you there. They want a sense of pride, a sense of country, and I think the band just being there, whether it's a small town or a huge city, brings pride to them, and their pride, I think, makes us want to give them our best every night. We get so busy here that at times that sometimes you can lose sight of that, but when you see an audience like that, it just brings you right back.
Anytime a musician takes part in a performance, there's a rush that happens anyway. When we perform for people who are appreciative and let us know it, the rush is magnified.
Ceremonial duties play a big part in the life of a military musician. The U.S. Army Herald Trumpets perform traditional presidential honors at the White House.
Well, every day it's different with the ceremonial group. We're on 24/7 call for any events and any missions that could happen at any time throughout the area, depending on a presidential event or any type of major ceremony that would occur.
Chief Master Sergeant Ed Teleke holds a bachelor's and master's from Juilliard. He serves as drum major of the United States Air Force Ceremonial Brass, leading daily funeral missions at Arlington National Cemetery.
It's really an unbelievable opportunity that we have to perform at a mission. Even though we may perform over 1,000 funerals each year, each one of them is important. And it's so important to that family that you're providing that lasting impact. And everyone is unique and everyone is special to us.
The ceremonial work, I greatly enjoy that. I have a great, immense amount of respect for doing that job. You get one chance, you know, to, like Arlington Cemetery, to go there and put your best foot forward for a family.
Knowing that what you stand for and the heritage and the pride that comes with that. And when we march down the street in, say, the inaugural parade, I get goosebumps. And I hope everybody else in the band gets goosebumps too, especially you know, when I see that, you know, things look good and they sound good and we're doing our job the way we're supposed to do it. It's a great feeling. I guess that's why we do it.
It's a common language, and everybody understands that, and it's a very uplifting thing. It's a very rare circumstance that you don't see a reaction from a crowd in a positive way.
the main reasons that music exists within the military is to stir up that sense of patriotic pride among our citizens and, of course, among members of our military.
We get to witness history as it's being made. We get to perform for political functions, for functions for the Marine Corps, and we're always involved in something usually historical in nature. And so even though we're performing our instruments, we're playing music, we're also a part of something like really bigger than ourselves.
The President's Own Marine Band performs in countless concerts, ceremonies, and White House receptions.
In a typical day and week, there really is nothing typical about the job. You know, earlier this week we were marching a parade up on the deck for a bunch of I think it was 11 brigadier generals, and then here I am today playing a French ballet. So it varies a lot from day to day and week to week and season to season.
You could be on 2 or 3 rehearsals and maybe a concert or 2 that week, or you may be on 3 or 4 ceremonies, but we're always sort of on call. Things could change at the drop of a hat, and so that's one of the keys about being in the Marine Band, I think, is the personality, to be flexible, to be willing and understanding when things change at the last minute.
The Marine Band is the oldest professional musical organization in America. Founded in 1798 by an act of Congress, the band has performed for every presidential inaugural since Thomas Jefferson's, earning its name, the President's Own.
Just being in the room with the President of the United States, with our Commander-in-Chief, is just such an honor. I feel as honored as any of his guests that he would have there, just to be playing in his house, in his presence. Being able to honor his service to us with my service to him and to our country. I couldn't have any possible higher honor.
Historical things that people may see on TV or read about in the newspaper, just witnessing it, seeing it, standing in that grand foyer and going, wow, you know, I am definitely a part of something right now that is important.
The Marine Chamber Orchestra rehearses and often performs at Sousa Hall, named for John Philip Sousa, the former band director known for his composition of military and patriotic marches.
One of the great things about this job for a percussionist is that some of the ceremonial work we do, it goes into the essence of what percussion and what music really is. We're signal people, we're callers. We do a certain beat and then something happens in the troops. Something happens outside because of something that we've done. Going back to the days of the fife and drum, there is a reason why percussionists were on a battlefield before anybody else. And then when you get a military job, especially a military job like this, that is involved with so much history and so much depth, so much ceremony, that it gets right to the core of what a percussionist actually does, why a percussionist is here.
Family traditions are really much part of Marine Band history. In fact, John Philip Sousa himself, his father played trombone in the Marine Band, and John Philip Sousa's brother, George, was a percussionist in the Marine Band. So there are really strong family traditions that go back throughout the history of the band.
History is still being made in the Marine Band. Staff Sergeant Chris Franke joins both his parents and late grandfather as the first family to span 3 generations in the President's Own.
My mom played a concert the night before I was delivered at the hospital. So, you know, from before I was born, I was exposed to music.
The Franke family legacy started with the late Master Gunnery Sergeant David Johnson, who played the trumpet and cornet. Johnson and his daughter, retired violist Master Sergeant Susan Franke, are the only father-daughter Marine Band family connection to date. She talks about what it was like to play with her dad.
I loved the way he played trumpet. How neat to be in an organization with your father. So once I got the position, I was thrilled.
Within a year, she met Phil Franke, a euphonium player in the band who would become her husband.
And so I would sit up in front of the two of them and know that my dad was back there, and I would listen to him play, and my husband was back there. It was just a, I don't know, comforting, just to know that we were all there.
We caught up with Master Gunnery Sergeant Frankie at a concert in Toledo, Ohio. He says his late father-in-law was both a friend and roommate when they were on tour.
It's almost a surreal feeling to, A, have gone from meeting my wife in the band, then being able to play music with my wife, not just play music, but at the White House. And then with, of course, sort of came along with that, the father-in-law thing. And then 22 years later, when my son auditioned, there were people in the band that knew him from the time when my wife was pregnant. It sort of came full circle, and it hit maybe on the way home from that audition where he was accepted into the band that, wow, this is really something. As proud as I was, I think he was just as proud to be the third generation, and the first person he called was Grandma and Grandpa to let them know.
I remember the very first concert we had, the three of us. It was just really neat. And what was really nice is that even though my dad was ill when Chris got in the band, he knew that Chris was there, and he was just, he was so proud. It was just so amazing to him to know that this 3 generations of Marine Band in the family was happening.
It's been my dream since I was 8 years old and realized that music was something special for me. I remember sitting around a table with my grandfather and my mom and dad and the whole family, and they asked me, so what do you want to do? Well, I want to be in the Marine Band. I would love to be in the Marine Band. That would be fun. And 14 years later, sure enough, the audition comes up. I take the audition, and 8 months after that, I'm here and loving every minute of it. I wouldn't have traded it for the world.
The people who work in the background, behind the scenes, don't really ever get to take a bow. And if we do our job exactly right, then nobody knows we did anything at all. And so when the performances are going on and there's a particular scene that you know that was greatly enhanced by the lighting, the dramatic effect of the lighting, or just the subtlety of the audio reinforcement, and there's a louder applause based on those things, that's kind of the reward we get. It's a great feeling.
The holiday concert season is one of the most anticipated times of the year for the service bands. For many, the sounds of Christmas classics invoke a sense of nostalgia, of a season filled with hope for the new year.
I get to make people happy. Truly, what we do is uplifting to people, and it puts a smile on their face. And being able to do that with your job, it's very rewarding.
Military musicians also know the holidays can be bittersweet for those on deployment, separated from their loved ones at a time of year when family is so celebrated.
What they're doing is tremendously important, and they're out there on the front in harm's way, and there's not a day that doesn't go by that we here think about them and care about what they're doing and support them.
Make them feel perhaps less homesick if they're far away from home, because we perform a lot of melodies that are very familiar, Christmas carols, and I hope it just makes them feel like they're not alone, that they have a lot of support back here in the United States.
There's a lot of pride and precision that goes into what we do here, and I think that people that see that respect that from a military angle, and hopefully that serves to boost the morale of the troops that are in harm's way. I know that it's something that we think about.
We're just trying to give them the opportunity to step out of their current life and just reflect perhaps over the last year, or just go to a happier place in time if they can, and that we have the opportunity to bring a little cheer to their life, help them realize that in bad times that we'll get through those.
There'll be scary ghost stories and tales of the glories of Christmases long, long ago. It's the most wonderful time of the year. There'll be much mistletoeing and hearts will be glowing when loved ones are near. It's the most wonderful time of the year. There'll be parties for hosting, marshmallows for toasting, and caroling out in the snow. There'll be scary ghost stories and tales of the glories of Christmases long, long ago. It's the most wonderful time of the year. There'll be much mistletoeing and hearts will be glowing when loved ones are near. It's the most wonderful time. It's the most wonderful time. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Regardless of the season, the service bands headquartered in Washington, D.C. are on call to perform 24/7. Theirs is a mission of music. I'm Tech Sergeant Ryan Hoke, and you've been watching Recon.